Anybody else? Okay, thought for the day. Some months, years ago, I can't remember when it was, I was at a probation camp saying Mass, and a homie named Angel, who was kind of a tremendo, always got into trouble, always stirred things up, always getting into fights and stuff. He comes up to me during the sign of peace, and he kind of with urgency and breathless, and he says, "I have to talk to you after Mass. It's about your message." I thought, well, that was sort of interesting. And so at the end of the Mass, he said, "Your message really got to me today. It put goosebumps on me. In fact, I've made a decision." I said, "Well, what have you decided?" "I've decided to make my first Commotion." And since I know this kid for a long time, trust me, it was not his first one. It was like he was like on number 53. But a month later, he made his first communion. But I always thought about the word commotion. We should sort of make a commotion. If you live the gospel, it creates a commotion. It stirs things up. It turns things on its head. Homeboy causes a commotion, which is the way it's supposed to be. I remember when I was a chaplain at Folsom Prison, inmates would come up to me with their Bibles, and they knew chapter and verse, and they would quote things and kind of argue with me, and I'd say, it's so easy to take the gospel literally. The hard part is taking it seriously. And in the same place, inmates, gang members mainly, would come up to me, and I'd talk to everybody, and they'd say, "Why are you talking to him?" I go, "Why not? He's a rapist, or he's a child molester." I go, I don't know, I'm just trying to take the gospel seriously. It's like that old joke. You remember the joke that would say, so-and-so called, he wants his whatever back, those jokes? Like once I was wearing a dorky sweater, and a homie came up and said, "Hey, gee, Mr. Rogers called, he'd like his sweater back." Once another homie went to another and said, "Hey, Lefty, Fred Flintstone called, he'd like his head back." Which actually I think is quite mean. Well, Jesus called, he'd like his gospel back. Truly, because we've so domesticated it, we've so tamed it, it doesn't cause a commotion. We use it to divide rather than to create a sense of kinship. If we were making a commotion and took the gospel seriously, what would we do today? We'd love our enemy. We'd turn the other cheek. We'd forgive. We'd do good to those who hurt us. We would embrace whoever is the leper. We would break bread with the outcast. We'd make a commotion. For 25 years, this place has sort of made a commotion in LA as an institution. But we're invited to make a commotion every single day, to do those things that stir things up and question the conventional wisdom. And so that's what we're going to commit to do today.